All right. Okay, and so now we're talking about big business. And so some of the aspects of big business. So there was robber barons, and just a couple to talk about. A couple of them are J.D. Rockefeller and Andrew Carnegie. Robber barons was used to describe these incredibly wealthy and powerful men of the era, and and how they did some less than ideal business practices. We're also going to be talking about horizontal and vertical integration, which are some of the business practices that Rockefeller and Carnegie sort of pioneered, and then some of the dangerous working conditions in their factories, as well as the workers' response, which was to form unions.
Yeah, one of my favorite robber barons is this guy by the name of J.P. Morgan, who there's a bank named after him today. One word I want you guys to write down is capitalism. Go to your phone, go to Google, and look up a dictionary definition of capitalism. All right, these abuses that Mr. Lorimer was talking about for Rockefeller, Carnegie, and the other robber barons centers around the concept of capitalism. Is capitalism bad? No, capitalism is what it is. It's what people do when we practice unrestrained capitalism that we have some issues with. All right, Rockefeller. I'm going to analyze the cartoon. Mr. Lorimer is going to talk about the notes for a little bit, but I just want you to think about this. How's Rockefeller depicted? All right. If you look at each line of his crown, it gives us some idea of what he's connected to. I see words, oil on it. I see different railroad lines listed. I see Standard Oil. This is not an oil barrel. What it is the huge containers. We have them outside of Mason City, where I grew up in West Des Moines at 8th and University. They have them. And there's this word on there, Standard Oil. I know that's probably the company that he is in charge of. I look down at the line below, the king of the combinations. I look at all these things. His crown reaches up into the sky. I look at what the symbol is right there. I see what's in the background. I kind of take note of it. For another cartoon, we're going to have you try to analyze that. You got to put all the details together and and then bring out some more meaning. Go ahead, Mr. Lorimer.
All right, so Rockefeller was America's first billionaire, and to do this, so he saw a profit in the waste byproducts of crude oil, and so with this product that he ended up coming, which was kerosene, he cut deals with railroads, and with these deals, he was able to then run other companies out of business. And so he ended up founding the Standard Oil Company, and at its peak, it controlled over 90% of America's refineries. And then at the time of his death, he ended up donating over $500 million.
You guys ever play that game with your families? You got a board, 4 sides on it. You buy Park Place, you get money, you go to jail, all of those things. What's that game called? Monopoly. And that is one type of a monopoly. We'll hit into that, but Rockefeller is kind of known for having that monopoly. All right, Andrew Carnegie.
All right, so he was a Scottish-born person, and he was a rags to riches story. So I'm sure you guys have heard the term the American dream. He helped sort of embodied the American dream. All right, and so at a young age, he invested in telegraph, iron, and oil companies before ultimately creating Carnegie Steel. And through this steel, he amassed wealth, and he used the vertical monopoly strategies, which we'll talk about in a little bit. His reputation was hurt by the violence from the Homestead Strike, which is another topic that we'll discuss.
Yeah, you guys are going to write about that. Enjoy.
And ultimately, when he sold Carnegie Steel, he sold it for over $480 million. And then he ended up devoting the rest of his life to philanthropy and through his gospel of wealth. And so like a quote that he says is, "The man who dies thus rich dies disgraced." And he ends up giving away up to $350 million, and he helped build libraries, churches, and ultimately Carnegie Hall.
A couple of questions for you. One, in Charles City, Andrew Carnegie has an impact on our community. See what you guys can figure out for that one. Second, he believed in giving away your wealth. What do you guys think about that? Should we do that? Should the government make rich people give their money away? Should it be their choice to do that? Should this be done by taxation, or should it be done, by their own choice? I mean, we have free will to do that. It's a classic libertarian question to actually ask. Now, we got a Carnegie political cartoon. All right. In the slide that'll be attached to this, I want you guys to go to this website, bring it up, and then you're going to fill out that form for this cartoon. As I hinted at earlier, you got to look at images and the words. I have words here. There's actually some words you can kind of maybe make out on the horns of this animal. Maybe count the heads of the heads on this animal. It gives you a hint. Who's this guy? Who's this guy? This guy's Carnegie. I will give you one hint on this. My children, they have an uncle. His name is Sam. So, and I'm not lying there.
If you want to find a clearer picture of this, if you just type in Andrew Carnegie political cartoon, this will be one of the results that pops up.
Absolutely. And if you use a little bit of mythology, it will help you with analyzing this cartoon. All right, horizontal and vertical integration.
All right, so these are the business practices that Rockefeller and Carnegie pioneered. And so there's two differences. And so with vertical integration, this is when you purchase companies for all levels of production, which would be Andrew Carnegie. And so with steel, what he ended up doing was he bought the iron mines, so like there's the base resource that he needed. And then he would buy the transportation to then ship out his steel across, thus cutting down costs. Whereas,
hold that thought. So if we take this away from cattle and make it steel, we got iron. We got the railroad to get it to the smelter, to the steel factory. From the steel factory, we got the railroad to take it to a distributor who then gets it out to a shop, and he has all of those. Vertical integration is raw material to finished product. Raw material to finished product. That is that type of monopoly. If you did not write down raw material to finished product, pull your head out and write it down.
All right, and so horizontal integration, which is what Rockefeller did, was when you buy competing companies of the same industry. And so for Rockefeller, this would be oil. And as we said, he ended up owning over 90% of oil refineries. And so what he would do is he would move into the area where this other company was, and he would lower his prices incredibly low so that the other company could not match it, at which point they would ultimately go out of business because they couldn't make any sales. And then Carnegie would buy their business and then hike up the prices again to then recover his profits.
Underselling the competition. It's not a true monopoly, but like Walmart, because of their purchasing power, can undersell local businesses, right? So when Walmart comes to a community, they take away that ability of a local business to compete price-wise because they have such purchasing power. It's a similar tactic, but slightly different. Before we leave, here's a question to you. In our society today, and I want you guys to add this, and we're going to actually add this to, and there's a spelling error right there. Ooh. We're going to add this to these questions. In American society today, where do we have monopolies? And there are some that are local, some that are national, and some that are worldwide. So your questions we got. What business practices did Rockefeller and Carnegie use to grow their respective empires? Explain, and you get to choose on your own, horizontal or vertical integration. 3, how have working conditions changed from the industrial age to today?
Yep.
From the industrial age to today. And we'll get more into details on this too in the classroom. And then the last one is, in America today, where do we have monopolies? Local, national, and world. Have a good one. Say goodbye.
Goodbye.